Choosing the right development and the right type of property for your short-term or mid-term rental investment is critical. Working with a professional management company like MadeComfy brings over 11 years of experience. A lot of the investors who are moving into the short-term rental space are chasing the positive cash flow. Whether it's large groups traveling, whether it's a whole lot of medical people traveling, or if it's just leisure travelers during different times of the year, we change strategy to make sure we're capturing and targeting the right type of guests for the right time of the year. We will do a full 12-month revenue projection showing you all the different occupancy levels, the historical data from that specific location, and give you a projection for what that property can potentially earn in the short-term rental market.
Welcome back to Cashflow Curiosity, the podcast where we dig into strategies, opportunities, and honest conversations with industry experts to help property investors make smarter decisions to maximize their investments. I'm your host, Keith Chen, and today we're doing something a little bit different because we're not just in a studio. We're actually sitting inside a beautifully furnished showroom apartment in Canopy Apartments by Gamuda Land in South Melbourne. And yes, this is one of the showrooms that my company, MadeComfy Interiors, had the pleasure of furnishing and styling. So if you're watching this video, take a good look around because this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Today's topic is one that keeps coming up with property investors right now, short-term rental. Specifically, what it actually takes to get a new apartment genuinely short stay ready from day one, the benefits when it's done right, and the pitfalls that catch investors off guard before they even reach settlement. Opportunities are real, but so are the mistakes and pitfalls. So most investors don't even find out until after settlement when they buy their new apartment. To help us unpack all of this, I've got a great guest joining me today. Daryl Smith is the head of growth for Australia and New Zealand at MadeComfy, one of Australia's largest professional short-term rental management companies. Daryl and his team are the ones behind the MadeComfy partnership at Canopy, and he's seen firsthand what separates a property that performs on short-term rental from the one that only looks good on paper. Daryl, great to have you here. What a great setting to have this conversation right now.
Thanks very much, Keith. Great to be here today. One of these beautiful furnished apartments by MadeComfy Interiors. As you mentioned, I'm from MadeComfy. So MadeComfy was started in 2015 in Sydney by two co-founders. Over the last 15 years, we've been working in the property investment industry, and MadeComfy has been running just over 11 years now. We have more than 1,200 properties under management across Australia, and our primary focus and goal is to help property investors find short-term rental and corporate rental investment properties and to maximize the revenue they can achieve from those properties and providing a full end-to-end professional management service.
So Daryl, as you can see, we're sitting in a MadeComfy furnished showroom. We were able to partner with Gamuda here in their latest apartment, Canopy in South Melbourne. And I also believe that MadeComfy was involved with this project from very early on. How did that come about, and what did Gamuda see in the short stay investment opportunity that made them want to offer it as an option to investors and buyers that are looking to buy in South Melbourne?
Yes, Keith, we're very excited to be sitting finally in one of these beautiful MadeComfy furnished and styled apartments in Canopy. We can see you've done an amazing job. The properties look really, really, really nice. So we've been working on this project with the developer in collaboration with the development team, project team, and then yourselves at MadeComfy for just over 12 months. The primary reason this came together was Gamuda actually saw an opportunity in the market where the fully furnished accommodation sector has been growing quite significantly, especially post-COVID. So we see a lot more clients looking for either a fully furnished solution as a owner-occupier, moving in just with their bags, everything's beautifully styled, furnished, and they can just get their keys and move straight in. Otherwise, also looking at the investor market, investors are always looking to maximize rental yields. So getting a fully furnished apartment, renting that out to tenants, whether it be on the short stay, mid-term stay, or the corporate long-term rental market, all of those kind of tick the boxes for where they can increase their revenue. And then finally, we've seen a large demand and a growing sector with overseas investors looking for flexible use, or interstate investors. So a doctor maybe lives in Sydney, they come to Melbourne a few times a month or a few times a year for work, or overseas investors who have have children at university in Melbourne, They come over, visit the kids a couple of times a year, or they're coming for work purposes. So they want the flexibility to be able to use those properties themselves. So having something fully furnished in a great location like Canopy is the perfect solution for them. So the three companies collaborating together really ticked all the boxes, and it was the perfect fit for the investors.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Mork Interiors, my company, a lot of the projects that we've been doing lately, we've seen that there's been definitely an increased demand from both interstate and overseas investors and buyers that are buying, and they want it to be fully finished and ready. And most of the time, they're also looking at a balance between either profitability versus flexibility for themselves to live in it, or when it's not being used, then they can also rent it out and try to also maximize how much revenue they can get for their investment property. So awesome. So for someone who's considering buying off the plan an apartment in a development like Canopy right now, what are the three things you tell them to look for in a development that signals it's designed and built well for short-term rental performance versus one that just looks good on paper?
Yeah, sure. So choosing the right development and the right type of property for your short-term or mid-term rental investment is critical. So there's three major factors that we see that really determines that. Number one, knowing the market and the demographic of the people you're wanting to target. So are you looking to target, as an example, medical or hospital locations where you're going to have either friends and family that are visiting clients that are in the hospital, medical reps, doctors, nurses, locums? You would target an area then around those hospital precincts. If you're looking at targeting leisure travelers, being close to things like tourist attractions, being close to the beach, being close to the CBD, the casino, parks, etc. So you really need to know who you're wanting to target with that property and where you can generate the best kind of returns. So we give clients guidance on that. Then how that building has been designed. Not all buildings have been designed to give flexibility for short-term and long-term rental investors. So knowing which developers have taken those ideas into consideration. How do guests check into the properties? How do residents get access? Are there separate lobby areas? Are there potentially two different lifts? Are there amenities in the building that are exclusive, like a beautiful dining room that's exclusive to residents? And then general tenants and short stay and corporate renters only have access to certain areas within that building. And then the last part is really important to know your numbers. So engaging somebody who is a professional like MadeComfy to actually run and look at the live Airbnb short-term rental market data, getting a really good understanding of, for your specific location and property size and configuration, what are those rental numbers, what has historically been achieved, and what does the demand look like in that location over the next 12 months to help guide you in making the right decision.
Yeah. So to summarize, you mentioned like the three main factors that investors look for or take into consideration would be knowing the target market and the guest demographics, right? The how well the building is designed to accommodate for the various accommodation options, whether it be short, medium, or long term. And also really knowing the numbers and the data from what's happening in the market in that area, and also in a broader sense in Australia, I guess. Talking about location, South Melbourne, where we're at the moment, it's not CBD, right? It's not Melbourne CBD, and it's not South Bank either. It kind of has its own character. So what made it the right location for a project like this? And who's the guests, or who are the guests that you're expecting to walk through the door, who are looking to book apartments like this to stay for short-term rental?
Great question. So with short-term rentals, there's a large amount of focus on location, okay, and also the walk score. So very commonly across all locations, people look at the walk score. Everything being within 5 to 10 minutes walk is ideal for your perfect short-term rental property. So Melbourne, fortunately, has a lot of significant local attractions. You've got great coffee shops, you've got great restaurants, bars, you've got great sporting facilities. So there's a lot of events that get held all year round, and you've got a lot of green space. So Albert Park, there's a lot of beautiful parks. In South Melbourne, you really are spoiled for choice because you're very close to the CBD. So for business travelers, it's the perfect location. You're not right in the city center, but you're close enough. You can get into work really easily, into your office. There are free trams available, so it's a quick commute into the city. There's also really good transport links. So it's very well positioned to move quickly north, east, and south. You've also got great access to things like St Kilda. You've got the beaches. You've got the inner east suburbs. You've got the MCG, the close if you're coming for the sporting facilities. So you really are spoilt with a lot of choice and a lot of options in this location. You also have easy access to things like Uber, Didi. You have GoGet. So if you do need to just get a car for a couple of hours or for a day and travel further, you can easily get that. Two main advantages of not needing a car or not needing a car space in a development building. One, it saves the developer on a lot of costs. So building underground car parks, very expensive, multiple car spaces, all of that is chewing into the profitability of the actual development. So it saves them money. And then you as an investor, you're looking at anything between $50,000 to $100,000 for a car space in an investment property. So if you take that away, you're saving on the actual costs of that investment. Yeah. For this particular location, we would target a combination of short stay guests. So people who are traveling for 2 or 3 days, typically corporate travelers. They're here, they're paying a higher or premium rate. They're here for a few days. So Monday to Thursday, you've got your business travelers. And then on the weekend, you've got more leisure travelers. There'd be sport events, there'd be music concerts, a bunch of different things that happen over the weekends. So you get that high occupancy by balancing between short, midterm, and then longer stays during the softer months, maybe over the winter periods.
So aside from South Melbourne, what other suburbs have you seen that would be worth exploring for investors that could generate really good returns, but also have a really good opportunity to be flexible as well for them, especially if they're from overseas as well?
So Melbourne has got a lot of really good locations within that kind of 3 kilometers fringe of the city. So eastern suburbs have historically always performed really well. So Fitzroy, Richmond, Carlton, even Cremorne, great little pocket suburb, not as well known as some of the big ones like Fitzroy, in close proximity to the MCG, very easy to get around to the Melbourne markets, to get down south to St Kilda, close to the beaches. So those would probably be my best picks, would be the inner eastern suburbs, going south more towards like St Kilda. In the northern fringe, we have Brunswick, we have Moonee Ponds, a little bit further out of the city, but also brand new developments, new Woolworths shopping centres, so some good amenities around there. And then when we go further out, we even look at places like Ivanhoe. Not a typical place where people would travel to for a holiday, but because of the large hospital, very high demand if you're in close proximity to the hospital. So nurses, doctors, locums, patients wanting to be in close proximity to stay near the hospital. That's why areas like that actually perform really well.
Yep. So really have to look at, what kind of amenities, services and attractions in that suburb, as well as potentially like hospitals and other services as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
Awesome. Okay.
And good public transport links. So if it's in an area where you've got easy access to trams, easy access to buses, trains, they can then commute quickly into the city. Some people, if they're coming for a long period of time, so 3 months plus, they don't necessarily want to be right in the buzz of the CBD city centre. They would rather be 2 or 3 kilometres out where it's a bit quieter. They've got all their local coffee shops, some nice maybe cool craft bars, and they kind of want to live in the community rather than being in a hotel style where they're right in the city centre.
Awesome. So a lot of investors underestimate what it actually takes to make a short-term rental apartment work. They think they'll self-manage to save on fees. They don't think it's hard enough, even with the furnishing as well. Where do you see investors get it wrong most often? And what do guests consistently respond to that investors would never think to prioritize?
So this is a really great question and a very common question from clients that we get. Working with a professional management company like MadeComfy brings over 11 years of experience, number one. It allows an investor to bring a short-term or a corporate rental property to market within 7 to 10 days after we get the keys and hand over the property, in comparison to doing it all yourself, which would take significantly longer. Having specialist partners like Mork, who are able to turn over a full property furnishing, styling, installation, assembly, rubbish removal, all in a single day, is significantly faster than doing that yourself. Also having the skills and expertise, how do you get access in and out of those buildings, the rubbish removal part, all of that is time saving, time is obviously money. So the quicker you get that property furnished, set up, and ready to go, the quicker you can start getting guest bookings, and the quicker you can start earning a return. There's a number of other things that investors don't take into consideration, and they kind of only learn once they're going through that process. One, how do you set up the home? Furnishing, obviously. Then things like utility connections. You need somebody to connect all of that in advance. You want the internet connected, you want the modem arrived at the property. You need specialist landlord insurance for short-term rentals and corporate rentals, getting a depreciation schedule so you can maximize the tax benefits on the furnishing and all the fixtures and the fitting, ordering your keys in advance, doing your pre-settlement inspections, getting all the defects fixed. So all of those things, if you plan them in advance and you work with a professional like Mork and like MadeComfy, we can help you with that investor pack, make sure that everything is ticked before you get the key handover, and then we speed up that onboarding and go live process.
Yeah, awesome. And at what point does a self-managed journey do most investors come to you, and then what does it usually cost them to find out the hard way?
Okay, another great question. So either after they've tried to do the furnishing and styling, we've had a few clients that have said we'll go at it on our own, purely for costs. They thought they could save money. 3 to 4 weeks later, they've actually come back to us. They're still waiting for deliveries of a fridge. They're still waiting to get rubbish removed, etc. They can't dump it on site. So it's generally after they've gone through that process and realize how difficult it is, and also making it look good. Everyone can buy the furniture from Harvey Norman, but actually styling it and making it look good is really complex, and it makes a big difference to the actual performance of the property. The second part is when the property goes live. The first month they haven't got any bookings, the occupancy is really low, or they capture a couple of bookings, but the rates are really low. So not understanding how their pricing, the dynamic pricing works, not understanding how your competitors are pricing their properties, changing the rates daily, understanding what the market is looking for, and understanding what guests are willing to pay during different times of the year also has a big impact on the actual performance of your property.
Yep. So for an investor thinking of self-manage, as you mentioned, they want to save costs, they want to save money.
Yeah.
Of course, that's important. At the same time, as you mentioned, sometimes it might take a while for their short-term rental investment to get some traction, right? Does your data show how long for them, on average, how long would it take them for them to set up and also to start getting bookings, as opposed to someone if they already hired a professional like MadeComfy as well?
Yeah, so that is, again, a really common question. So generally we advise our clients that within the first 30 days, up to 60 days or 90 days potentially is what we call our ramp-up period. So when you start a new Airbnb listing or a short stay listing on any platform, you have no reviews. So guests generally are looking at reviews before it gives them the confidence to book and before they're willing to pay maybe a premium on a specific property. So if you have no reviews, you also have no forward booking pipeline. So in order to get your occupancy up, you need a runway period. So generally we talk about ramp up being up to the first 90 days, also depending when you start. If you start in winter, it's going to be slightly longer, 60 to 90 days. If you start in summer, you will get quick bookings and it's probably going to be shortened to maybe only 30 days. So depending on the time of the year that you start, but generally speaking, you need to price a little bit lower in the beginning. You need to capture some early bookings, generate your first 1, 2, 3 reviews. Once you've got those reviews in place, we increase the nightly rates. Guests are more confident to book the properties, and they were more willing to pay that higher rate once it's been verified or validated by other guests and travelers.
Awesome. So for an investor looking to put their investment property on the short-term rental market, they come to you, they say they want to put it on the market, but it's unfurnished, it's not ready. And if they want to DIY getting it ready themselves and then only engage you, how long does that take versus getting a professional to do it for them?
So generally speaking, it's around 4 to 6 weeks to do it by yourself. A lot of the clients go online, they put everything into a shopping basket. They think by ordering everything, they will just get it delivered and it'll take a couple of days. In reality, every company would deliver on different days. So you've got Harvey Norman, you've got Coca Republic, all delivering at different days with different time windows. You then have to book the elevators if you're in an apartment building, which you can't just book every day. You only get certain slots. So there's a lot of collection of different items and delivery times for all of those individual items. Then it's the actual assembly of all the items in the home. It's the rubbish removal. It's all the other things that come. So generally around 4 to 6 weeks if you self-furnishing. If you're doing it with a professional company like Mork, in most instances, especially if you're doing apartments, it's a single day job. So everything delivered, installed, rubbish removal done, styled, set up, ready for our cleaners to come in. The cleaners would be in the next day, set up the beds, photo shoot the following day, and you move straight into onboarding. So it's a significant time difference. You're talking at least 3 to 4 weeks there of rentable time where you could be getting guest bookings and could be earning revenue. So for paying that little bit of extra dollars to have it done professionally, it also looks significantly better. So when people see the property online, it looks beautifully styled. It looks like an amazing, warm home. People click on your listing more frequently, which means you get more bookings.
So, because obviously it's not only presented very well, but it's also prepared and installed a lot faster. On average, I believe for my company, Mork Interiors, we can the delivery time frame is about 1 to 2 weeks, and then as you mentioned, the installation is only 1 day. So as opposed to up to 4 to 6 weeks. So you're saving at least 3 to 4 weeks, as you mentioned. So
exactly.
Massive savings, especially they can also start renting it out and also start getting reviews so that they can start to build traction and build the rentability or bookability for their apartment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, as mentioned earlier, my company, Mork Interiors, was engaged by the developer to furnish and style the showroom, as well as also sharing our services for other buyers in this building as well to help set up their apartment to be short-term rental ready. From MadeComfy's perspective, how much does the quality of the furnishing and styling actually move the needle on what an investor earns?
So Keith, we always advise clients that investing in the furnishing is a lifelong investment, number one. Using professional furnishing and styling company saves you time, as we've already discussed, but it's a critical part for the overall success for that whole investment journey. It's not a 1 year investment. We're talking multiple years that you'd be investing or renting out this apartment on the short term or the corporate rental market. So the quality of the furniture when you go with a professional is also a lot better. Generally, people buy the cheap stuff when you buy it yourself in comparison to a furnishing company who gets wholesale rates, they buy in volume, etc. So they get some benefits in terms of how they buy, but they buy good quality furniture, which is generally fit for purpose. So in short-term rental properties, there's a bit more wear and tear potentially on some of the items. So they get good quality sofas, good quality beds, which means it lasts longer. So you're not buying cheap stuff yourself that you have to replace every 12 months. The speed with getting the job done obviously saves a lot of time. Mork does hold a lot of the furnishing items ex-stock. So that turnaround time is much faster. So in 1 to 2 weeks, as you mentioned, you can have the furnishing into the properties, which means you're getting guest booking faster. The properties also look significantly better when they're online after the professional photo shoot's done. So you're getting more people booking on the listings. Some of our case studies that we've done with self-managed and self-furnished properties versus professionally furnished by Mork and other partners, we're looking at potentially anything between 20 to 30% higher gross rental income and guests paying higher rates because the quality of the property looks so much better when they actually book those properties. So that's a huge increase, 20 to 30% for an investor in comparison to doing it yourself.
Wow. Yeah, it's much higher. And is that difference consistent across price points, or does the return on the premium fit out really show up at the higher end of the market?
So this one, Keith, really depends on the specific target market that you're targeting. So if you're targeting the premium high-end market, naturally you would need to invest quite a lot in the furnishing packages. So you would need to buy premium quality furnishing, and the expectations from the guests when they're paying $1,000 or $2,000 a night is that everything is expensive, high-end, high-quality furnishing. So there you really need to spend that top dollar to attract those guests in that luxury space. So that would be your luxury waterfront homes. It would be your luxury penthouse apartments and the really high-end market. In the by comparison, in the 1 and 2 bedroom apartment, where a lot of our investor market sits, it doesn't always make a significant difference if you are going with premium furnishing or just our comfort level furniture. We generally advise the investors there to go for more of the comfort level, where you spend fit for purpose. It looks really good. It looks professionally styled, and it's only going to be for guests who are staying for a certain period of time. However, in saying that, if you are in a brand new building and there's 100 short-term rentals in that particular building, like a hotel style building, there you can differentiate yourself by maybe going with a premium package. Yeah. So engaging more to make yours like a luxe boutique getaway or a certain theme and styled apartment, so that you segregate your apartment and it looks different from the others. The last thing you want is the building looking like a Mantra or a Mirvac building where everything there is hotel service apartment style. And so there is some benefit of spending that extra dollars and differentiating your property.
Yeah, exactly. I think some of the projects that we work with you guys that we had so much fun with, because some of the clients that you guys referred to us, they really wanted their apartments to stand out in that building. You know, there were roughly 10 to 20 short-term rental apartments already on the market in the building, and they go, well, one, I'm going to be using it as a holiday home for myself. So I also want to enjoy it. I want to invest a little bit. At the same time, I also want it to really stand out, right? And so they, like you mentioned, you know, it's not like it's not a penthouse. It's not a luxury property with a waterfront, but just by investing in some key pieces in the package for their apartment, they were able to, one, they were very happy, and two, they were also able to get a little bit higher rental income as well. So awesome. So investors are understandably nervous about buying into a short-term rental strategy that could be legislated away. Where does the regulatory environment sit right now in Victoria, and how should someone factor that risk into their decision?
That's a great question, Keith. It's a really important part to making sure you understand state by state what the legislation looks like, and it's constantly changing. Like with everything in government, there's always changes that come around, especially in the investor market. And also with the housing crisis, there's a lot of emphasis on finding enough affordable accommodation in every state. So in Victoria, there's a relatively simple legislation that was brought into place in 2024 for short-term rentals specifically. So there are some guidelines around how short-term rentals should be run, the code of conduct of how guests should behave, and how landlords should set up those homes. The Victoria government also introduced a small levy. So there's a 7.5% levy tax that's put onto all short-term rental accommodation, which is quite common in a lot of countries and a lot of states in Australia. That short-term rental levy is actually applied by the online travel agents like Booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia, etc., and on charge to the guests. Yeah. So it doesn't directly impact the actual landlord, but it's on charge. So essentially the guests are paying that little bit extra when they book a property now in Victoria. The other regulations that were brought in was around council being able to have an input and be able to put some restrictions on certain properties and certain buildings if there are issues around short-term letting in specific areas, and giving authority to the strata management companies to be able to have a voting process where if more than 75% of the investors or the landlords and owner-occupiers, residents in the buildings are able to vote, and they can put some restrictions on how those buildings are managed and the short-term letting in those specific buildings. So one thing that is important to always get a copy of the bylaws and talk to the strata management company and the sales agent before you purchase a property in any building across Victoria. Mm-hmm. The other interesting part, which has just come into place, which we haven't really touched on today, but is a significant benefit, buying off the plan and buying new, the new laws and legislation around capital gains tax and negative gearing. So one of the benefits of buying in a beautiful building like Canopy and any of the Gamuda projects or with our other developers is that you're not going to be subject to the capital gains changes. So if it is a new property, you're still going to get that 50% exemption on the capital gains tax, and there's no impact on the negative gearing in comparison to buying existing stock, where there is no longer going to be the negative gearing benefit for the investors. So those are some of the important things, I think, to take into consideration when you're buying in the Victoria market.
Would you say that, or do you have any data, or have you talked to some of your investors where you've seen that they're getting more positive cash flow, or are they negative gearing? Do you know what are the stats on that?
So a lot of the investors who are moving into the short-term rental space are chasing the positive cash flow. So if they're buying with their self-managed super fund, or if just in general they're looking for positive cash flow, getting those higher nightly rates and the higher weekly rents is what's driving the positive cash flow. In comparison to a lot of the long-term rental investors, where especially new builds, the price of apartments have gone up, so you're paying a higher purchase price, and the rents haven't caught up as quickly as the building costs have gone up. So the rent is a little bit lower in comparison to what you're paying for those properties. So the yields are still relatively low in comparison, and most of those are still negatively geared. Yeah, so a lot of investors that's why they're moving to the short-term rental and corporate rental space, is trying to chase that higher rent, which you can get from a fully furnished accommodation, be it a long-term tenant for 12 months, a mid-term tenant for just 6 months at a time, or a shorter stay, which is your 2 to 7 nights or 7 to 14 night stays.
Yeah. Cool. So short-term rental can look great at peak season, but fall apart during quiet months, during the quiet season. What does a realistic annual occupancy picture look like for a well-positioned Melbourne apartment? And how does having an embedded operator versus going it alone actually shift that number?
Okay, so around 60 to 75% at the moment is the occupancy that we see in the Melbourne market. The softer months of the year, around May and June, is generally the softest across all states. So it's really important, if you want to maximize your occupancy and you want to maximize your earnings out of a short stay investment property, to be able to manage different times of the years with different strategies. So we try and have longer stays and corporate long-term, maybe even using realestate.com for 3-month fully furnished accommodation as an offering during those softer months and winter months of the year. During the peak season and when the major events are on in Melbourne, so you've got the tennis, you've got the F1 Grand Prix that happens during those months, so January up until probably April, Easter, is the peak season months in Melbourne, and that's when we have the shorter stays with the higher nightly rates. So you're constantly getting this balance, so you can still run at sort of 80 or 90% occupancy, just at different rates during different times of the year, and that's how you get an overall maximum revenue from that investment property. The other part is making sure that you use a professional management company like MadeComfy, because we understand the dynamic pricing, we understand those different rates, and we can see every day what the competitors are doing, how they're changing their prices in the market, and what the demand is from the guests, whether it's large groups traveling, whether it's a whole lot of medical people traveling, or if it's just leisure travelers during different times of the year. We change that strategy to make sure we're capturing and targeting the right type of guests for the right time of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're in Melbourne. There's so many events throughout the whole year. It'd be a waste if you didn't take advantage of that to really help leverage and also maximize your bookings and your income as well. So yeah, 100%.
Exactly right.
Where should people go if they want to know more about you and work with MadeComfy as well? So
any investors who are thinking of getting into the short stay or corporate rental market, they can visit our website, madecomfy.com.au. You can also try out our short-term rental calculator. So we've got a great little tool on the website where you can put in the address of the property, how many bedrooms, and it will run a really quick 1 to 2 minutes analysis of what you could potentially earn with that investment property. We do also have an in-house team of BDMs at MadeComfy. So if you do an inquiry on our website, you can book in a free consultation with any one of those short-term rental specialists. They'll take you through the whole process, what that looks like, how you set up the home, and we can also prepare a free rental appraisal. So we will do a full 12-month revenue projection, showing you all the different occupancy levels, the historical data from that specific location, and give you a projection for what your specific property, based on the postcode and the size of the property, what that property can potentially earn in the short-term rental market.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Like, today has been really insightful. I learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of investors are learning a lot as well. You know, whether they want to self-manage or they want to hire a professional like MadeComfy. It's been really absolutely fantastic. Since this podcast is called Cashflow Curiosity, if you'd like to learn more about this topic or anything related to cash flow, definitely let us know in the comments.